Points are we using?
It's
It's recording.
I know one of the main points in the reading was ethics, and it's basically saying that our ethics over the years have sort of degraded as a nation. Do you think that's true, and why do you think that happened?
I think it's true. Why? I mean, there's so many advancements in technology and the polarization, things like that have become so extreme that people have kind of lost track of what's simply right and wrong. And I think it's very bad. We need to
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. I think technology it takes us out of interacting with people like day to day kind of, and I think that's where you learn like ethics. Like I think it can be taught in the classroom. There's certain philosophies that can be taught, but at the end of the day, you gotta go out, live, make mistakes, do what's right, do what's wrong, learn from your mistakes,
and be punished
and
correctly.
exactly.
Because you see, like, these big bankers or whatever stealing money, things like that, and they're not being punished correctly, or even, I mean, to go out on a limb, celebrities are doing terrible things, and they're never in jail, and they're never punished properly, and they're not setting good examples. And, I mean, especially for youth, like, the youth are so absorbed in the TV and the internet, and they're reading all this, and they're saying, well, if they can do it, and they're not getting punished, then I can too. And it's bad.
I think another issue is like people's ideas of right and wrong. Like we all sit here and we think about like I know I shouldn't talk about religion, but like the Westboro Baptist Church, and we all think, wow, that's so wrong. Like that's terrible. Why would they do that? But like they think what they're doing is right and like moral.
That's actually a question I wanted to ask, going off of what you said, is so you say that our ethics have sort of like been lost over the years due to technology, but how do you decide what is right and what is wrong?
It's great.
I think like that's something your parents teach you, and I know with the technology, there's been like a move away from family, and it's all become about the like individual. So I think that's the problem, is that people are having less and less contact with their family because they're like, oh, sorry, mom, can't talk. I have like to go text someone or like Instagram something. And so there's like not that contact that there was like 20 years ago, and so the parents aren't always there to teach them right and wrong. It's for they're having more contact with their peer group, and not to like say anything about the youth, but they're not completely understanding what's right and wrong. And so if they're learning that from someone who doesn't hasn't had it taught to them, it's gonna have like the skewed ethics.
I think if you're doing something that you think is right, and like literally everyone else thinks it's wrong, like maybe you should kind of reevaluate. Like I think there are some things where like most people have the same mindset about what's right and what's wrong, like on some issues.
Yeah, and then you have like certain issues that are, I mean, like even like abortion is like that's such a tough issue to debate. That's the thing. It's like it's such. I mean, you could literally like spend hours and hours and still not come up with an answer. But further, I mean, there's certain things that need to be, I think, instilled from you. And I think the whole thing, like even what we were talking about before, like the whole young age, like that needs to be. I mean, I don't know, like you said too, like there's bankers that steal money, politicians that lie. I mean, there's so much like corruption and everything, but I'd like to know like where they came from, kind of like, and what caused them to like think that that's like not. I mean, obviously, I don't think that they thought it was okay, but what made them rationalize that and make it happen.
And hand in hand with that is like the idea of greed. This technology, we want more. We want more. Like we need more information, similar to we want more money when we're getting it. We need more, and that causes a lot of not necessarily black and white problems, such as abortion. And I think those problems that are kind of gray area are always going to exist, and we just need to like do our best. But there are definitely things that are right and there are things that are wrong that use
I agree
those
that
people.
technology has an effect. Like if you want to know a question, you Google it and it doesn't load in like 4 seconds.
So frustrating.
The wall.
Yeah.
And then, like, if you stop and think about it, like, really, is this what it's become? Like, people used to have to, like, go to libraries and get encyclopedias, but now everything's, like, so immediate that, like, if you don't get it in 5 seconds, like, it pisses you off.
Yeah.
I know, going back to the divide, like talking about abortion, that issue has been going nowhere because no one wants to acknowledge the other side, and that's like an issue you need to teach your kids, that both sides have a point, and technically both sides are correct, but since neither side wants to acknowledge that, that's why the issue isn't moving forward. So you need to teach your children to acknowledge the other side if they want to go anywhere.
Okay, so this is the last question I'm going to ask about ethics. A lot of you guys have said that technology plays a huge role in defining the ethics of our modern day society. Do you think that technology should be sort of downplayed to make up for that loss of morals, or would you rather keep it like it is now and hope that it gets better?
I think you gotta adapt. You have to adapt to what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one's gonna stop technology. Number one, it's too much of a market. That's right. It's important to us. I mean, like, we're moving forward. I mean, you can talk about technology is important in health, and there's a lot of crap technology, I guess you could call it, but there's a lot of technology that's pushing us forward, and I think we need to adapt to the times. And I mean, I'm just looking at this, like, this is kind of surprising to me. I mean, not surprising, but look at, like, the graphs, like, ethical decision making is like the third thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just think that's money's the motivation, and they'd rather have someone who is good with numbers and maybe not as ethical or as responsible. But I mean,
in an ideal world, I think everything in moderation. I mean, you see, if you're a babysitter, I mean, you see kids who like eat TV while they're, I mean, you eat dinner while they're watching TV and like are always like on a tablet or on an iPad, and like it's too much. It's like overload. So I don't know how you can moderate technology, but if there's a way you can do it, it would probably be ideal.
Man, that's a loose moral code, eating TV.
Yeah.
And going back to like what we said before, you can't ignore technology because that's like the laziness that we talked about before. Like, you just don't want to acknowledge it. You can't ignore technology because it's there. It's always moving. Like Alex said, you need to adapt to the technology because it's always going to be there. And ignoring it is just going to make the problem like worse.
So I'm going to ask you guys about this graph on page 7. It looks like a lot of employers have different opinions on what they think should be emphasized in our education. How do you feel about the distribution of certain important conventions within this graph? Do you think they should be rearranged? Do you think it is the way that it should be? Do you think priorities are being placed in the wrong places? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, to me, like I just said, I think to me, ethical decision making should be 100%. You know what I'm saying? Like, before, I don't think there was a need for classes like business ethics. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't or accounting ethics. Some certain things like that where you can recognize that maybe you're being used to do something illegal, or you're doing something illegal without. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things like that should be emphasized, and I just think, like, once again, it makes it obvious that like money's the motivation. As long as the outcome is more money, they'll go with it. They'll take the risk of not being ethical if they're making money in the future.
I think what they emphasize is acceptable. Like, I agree, but I think the fact that civic knowledge, participation, and engagement are what they look for the least. If you're not engaged in the job or in what you're doing, then how are you going to do it well? So that concerns me that that's like one of the lowest. Also, the role of the United States in the world. I think we should definitely know what our role is. I definitely need to be more educated on what our role is before I look for a job, but the fact that that's one of the lowest is concerning.
I know I saw global issues and science and technology on there, and that's basically what we talked about yesterday, and how, like, to teach more science and math, and, to start teaching more foreign languages, because obviously, like, it's not high enough where it is, and that it makes it on the graph at all is kind of sad that, I mean, we don't know, we're not teaching our youth about global issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at, like, everything should be taught. Like, everything on here, like, there's nothing on here where I'm like, that's stupid, we shouldn't know that. But, like, I think we could kind of even it out a little. Like, you don't have to place emphasis on critical thinking. Like, you could, like, I think everything is necessary. I mean, I think you should come out knowing most of these things, and competent in most of these things.
The idea of being well-rounded is just like important.
I don't think college should be devoted to, like, ethics or,
certain
like,
thing,
cultural diversity. Like, I think you should be getting education beyond that, but I think it's necessary to.
Like, do you think that because we're required to take gen
Okay.
eds,
So from page 8, actually, it gives us a few different actions that can possibly be taken to sort of get rid of the problem. It gives both the pros and the cons. So the first option is talking about teaching integrity and responsibility within the schools. And the problem with that would be that would leave schools up to deciding what's right and wrong, which may conflict with parental views and whatnot. But how do you feel about teachers teaching what is right and wrong, and how do you think that would work out in the long run?
I'm like, I understand that teachers should teach right and wrong, but it's like giving someone the right to play God. And I think like that is, it's kind of a really personal thing when you want your child to know that's right and wrong. So I'm like, I understand the idea that this should be taught in schools. Like I'm like, you should learn ethics in school and stuff. But I'm like, that also goes back to the parents are gonna phone in problems because this is like, oh, you can't teach my child this, and of course the extremely political parents or the extremely religious parents are gonna get their knickers in a bunch if like someone is teaching something that
specific facts when maybe
It's very true.
Knickers are in a
And
twist.
there's an idea of like
put that in the notes.
Yes.
I forget what I was gonna say.
There's gonna be problems if someone very
Gotcha.
active is having their child taught something they don't agree with.
Things like cooperation and respect for others should be instilled in you before you get to college. But I get that, like, but then, like, it makes sense that, like, but like I said before, if most people think something is right morally, then it's, like, probably right. So I think they could teach, like, basic things. I mean, maybe not go into religion and, like, specific political issues, but basic morals.
And they could teach that it's okay for someone else to have a different ideology than you, rather than the other one is right.
I think they should like teach respect, like respect all your different ideas, respect each other for what they believe. But I don't think they should say like Joe is wrong and Sally is right. Like I don't think they should be distinguishing what is right and what is wrong, because no matter what they say, one child is going to be on the right side and the other is going to be on the wrong side. Like I don't think they should be teaching something that black and white. Like they should be teaching like respect all the views, not just respect this view because it is correct.
That's really, really good, because actually I took an ethics class last semester, and that's exactly what he said. He was like, guys, like, so at the end there was like a 10-page paper you gotta write on a view, and yeah, no, on a view that you take on like this certain like specific issue, and he's like, guys, like there's no right answer. Like as long as you have your opinion, back it up with like reasoning, you know what I'm saying? You can definitely see, like he said, I can perfectly see the situation like both ways, and he said you got to think about the third, fourth, fifth option that you have, So I think there's definitely a value in classroom ethics. Like I said before, philosophy of it, like it's interesting. Like I mean, Aristotle, Kant, Mill, like that kind of stuff. That's good, and that's good to like lay a foundation. But to me, like you learn that kind of stuff like at clubs, interacting with other people, going out. I mean, like thon, like that's like a big thing. But not only for the point of thon, but also for interacting with other people. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to learn ethics in the real way. It's like
I would love to do an art
Maybe I'm old school.
Going back to the point of
it kind of
parents calling in and everything.
like maybe I took let's say I
When
took
the
a
Michael
class
Moore
and
movie
I
came
would
out,
like
I
an
think
art
it was
class
called
about
Inconvenient
Gen
Truth.
And
No,
I
well,
don't, like,
Inconvenient
need to
Truth is
take another
Al
art
Gore.
class
Al Gore,
before
right?
Al Gore.
And Michael Moore's, I'm forgetting the name, but
So I don't know. I think that like
my sister's school, they watched the Michael Moore movie, and my dad found out about it when my sister came home and just like told him what they did at school. And my dad's a huge conservative, so of course he called the school and he made the teacher who showed the Michael Moore movie also show an Inconvenient Truth, just because he thought that it was like very fundamentally wrong that they only showed that one very obviously skewed film.
Yeah.
And that's a valid.
That's a value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. My dad, he is a psychology professor, and he was like, the head of the psychology department at West Point. And, he said every time he would start a class, he would always tell the kids, well, I mean, I guess they're not kids anymore, they're cadets, but he's like, he'd always tell the cadets, there is no way I can teach this class without having some bias leak in. So, it is okay to question your professor because, I have my own life experience bias that, none of you are going to have because I don't think any of you are, like, married with children. But, he's like, it is okay to question because it is impossible to teach anything without bias.
Part of the con is like their job should be helping students acquire knowledge and teaching them intellectual and career skills, and I think they should be doing that. I think you can like balance it out, like help them with ethics and career skills. Yeah.
And I'm like talking about going back to the chart, like that was something that many employees looked for. So technically it could be counted as a career skill.
Enthusiastic, and then that
Valid part of the
enthusiasm and
Yeah.
like applying real world things like goes
Okay.
back to
So
like,
the second option is talking about teaching a wide variety of different subjects, which we actually talked about last time in option one. But one of the things that stuck out to me was philosophy. We don't really see a lot of philosophy classes. Well, not in high school at least. Like you don't see people taught philosophy in high school. But it's sort of a trade-off of if you spread out curriculum so much, then you may end up with less specialists in certain fields. To what extent do you think we should be spreading out the curriculum, and when does it become too spread out to the point where we don't have enough people focused on what sort of society views as the most important, which it is saying is business, science, and technology?
I definitely think business science and technology is important. Like, I was talking to my dad about this yesterday, and he was saying when there's big projects that the United States want to embark on, they have to go overseas to find people to help them with these projects when like other countries don't have to do that. But I don't think, like I think that's really important to like look at, but I also think it's important to just have like basic background. So I think it can be evened out. I don't think anybody's attempted to even it out, but I think there's a way where you can learn business, science, and technology, but also learn to be a good person.
And be a specialist in that stuff. Like there
Like
has to be.
you could insert like the ethics into like the gen eds because that's not stopping anyone from specializing because I mean you have to take the gen eds anyways and there's a little bonus ethics lesson there that's required.
Like I'm taking political communication technology.
All right, and then the final option is talking about how colleges and universities, as we continue to get more different groups of people and become more and more diverse, it sort of decreases the amount of opportunities that we as American students have to succeed in certain fields. Like, for example, and right now the world leader in like consumer technology is Japan. So you have more and more students from Asia who sort of are great at these fields. Like they come over and they just do great in the American school system, and therefore they're getting better jobs. Do you think that it's becoming a problem that we are getting so diverse that America's sort of falling behind and sort of having their place taken by people who have come into the country and succeed so much?
If they're coming here and like adapting to American life and they're better than us, then I guess they did. I don't think we should specifically bring people from Asia over to diversify our schools, but I think like if they came for the American opportunity, and like if they're gonna try hard enough to get it, then like good for them. I don't think we should say no.
There's like a balance kind of idea. Like, I mean, the great thing about our country is that we are open to diversity, and so yeah, sure, like if they come over, they can do a better job, sure. But we also need to really kind of push for our American citizens to compete with these other students who are coming. And I guess just kind of like really coexist in diversity, but all do well together. And if students are coming over and living in America and they're benefiting us, then what's the problem with that?
I don't think it's fair for like Americans to like sit back and like bitch about the Asians doing better if they're not gonna like try and compete at least.
I think that's actually like a huge problem, is that a lot of people who have problems with certain groups of people, it's like they're not even trying to meet up with the expectations, because a lot of foreign students that come over, they're taught those like work ethics from their country, and then they bring it over here and they maintain it and they do very well, because our ethics, well, work ethics at least, aren't, I won't say not as good, but like we don't really hold to them as well as other people do. So it sort of gets lost, like American work ethic. So what is that? He's over here doing very well. What are you doing? You're sitting back and complaining about it. So in regards to that, like work ethic, like I mean that's a huge thing. You're gonna have to have work ethic no matter where you go, and I think that's one of the things that is being lost over the course of the year, is work ethic, the drive to work hard and succeed for the sake of succeeding, instead of just complaining about other people. And what do you think we can do to combat that? Because it's becoming more and more of a problem.
There's some things in China work that I don't want to carry over here. Like they have some.
Of course.
Like they're working from when they're very young and things like that. So like I guess they're always gonna have that little edge. But I think like there's just a lack of motivation. And I don't know where to get it.
I mean, it also, like, goes back to the fundamental laziness. It's just like we and parents. It's like we don't want to try. We don't want to be challenged. We don't want our views to be challenged. We are content to sit back and whine because they're not letting us do this. But it's like, I think they need to teach people, like, you need to get out there and at least try for it, or, nothing is going to happen for you.
I don't think it's like physical laziness. I think it's like mental
laziness.
Because if you look at how many people have become personal trainers,
Try to wrap it up. We're
like
about a minute away from
like that's such a big
session.
Thank you.
Recorders, please don't forget to upload your
Deliberation guide.